Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Florida Panthers, the fact that they continue to sign big-term extensions to their players and key individuals within the organization, talking about whether or not these are the right moves for the team for the long term, or just in general. So before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So Florida, I think, is in a spot where most of the league is pretty envious of what they've done over the past 2 or 3 seasons. Whether you are an expansion team like the Seattle Kraken or an original 6 team, you look at what they've done over those runs and you see a side that you want to be. A team that is going out there and won division titles, conference titles, a President's Trophy, and then, of course, Stanley Cup. These are all big, notable achievements, but I think for Florida, it's kind of been notable as well, too, in the fact that they have really been able to put their money where their mouth is, trying to keep this team competitive by getting a lot of key players signed onto long-term deals, as well as a coach. So looking at all this, it goes back further than this, but I think, especially looking at July, it all kind of kicks off with the Sam Reinhart extension. Reinhart was one of the bigger fish in free agency. He goes out there and signs an 8-year extension for nearly $70 million. Sam has been a good player in Buffalo. He's been a really good player in Florida and is capable of scoring 50 goals. Great to see him stay there instead of going somewhere else. Then you had the Anton Lundell deal, 6 years, $30 million. Lundell is a former first-round pick for the team. He is young, but this could be something where it really pays off for them. Early in the year right now, you're looking at the fact that he's 8 points in 8 games played. That is promising. And then, of course, too, you see the Carter Verhaeghe extension, which was a couple hours after they raised their Stanley Cup banner. Verhaeghe has played such a big part in this team being able to have big moments in the playoffs. Of course, his time with Tampa Bay is kind of interesting to look at, too. He's just been very successful in the state of Florida, and there's that. And then, a couple of days ago, you had Paul Maurice go out there and sign a multi-year extension, and he is already the most successful coach in franchise history. So things seem to be going very well for this team. Mind you, they're still talking about the fact they're trying to get a Sam Bennett contract extension done. And you're thinking, how in the world can they go out there and continue to be doing this? And that doesn't even include all the deals from before July, as of course before this you had the Gustav Forsling extension from last season. Then you realize that they have guys like Alexander Barkov signed a long-term deal, Matthew Tkachuk signed a long-term deal, and then Sergei Bobrovsky from a relatively long time ago when he signed that long-term contract with them to come over from Columbus. And you're just kind of amazed that they're able to have a lot of these names and then keep them, and the fact that a lot of these guys do want to continue to be there. And it is very impressive. At the same time, too, you understand a lot of long-term contracts for a substantial amount of money. We're not just talking about tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about multiple hundreds of millions of dollars if you include all this money over the course of these deals. And it is interesting to see an organization that was not in a great spot a couple of years ago just handing out a lot of these deals and making the money work. Again, you know, with cap hit, it's always going to be interesting versus what players are actually getting paid on a year-in to year-out basis. But looking at all this, again, too, you start to wonder, is this going to be a good thing for the team going forward? Is this something that's going to hurt them? I think on one end, you can talk about, oh, could they lose depth? I'm going to say maybe, but there is replaceable depth that you can get there on a year-to-year basis. But if you're looking at their forward group, Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Bennett, and all these other guys that are going to be staying around, you can say that they probably will still be able to make an impact for the next 5 years for sure. And you're not as worried there. I think with Bobrovsky getting a little bit older, you do wonder a little bit about him and saying, okay, are things going to be all right in net going forward? How's the blue line going to look? Those are all valid concerns. We could talk about that. But at the end of the day, I do think that this is going to be a good thing. I know a lot of times I seem kind of conservative when it comes to these long-term deals, especially when you have a bunch of long-term deals that are worth a substantial amount of money. But what it comes down to is results, and getting banners actually mean something. So Florida's got those over the past couple of years, and the regular season success has been there too. It's not like they've been able to have a couple of fluke postseason runs where they got really hot and they just fluttered out. They were able to be a good team over the course of the past few seasons and then see those results and be able to beat other good teams. And for this group, I think one thing that sticks out, especially for a lot of these deals, when you look at their contracts, a lot of these guys are in their mid to late 20s. So they're either in their prime, they're going to hit their prime, and you realize too that if this all kind of works in a good way for the team, there's not a couple of players that fall off too hard or anything like that, you could have a spot where Florida is running the East, or at the very least challenging for the Eastern Conference, if not the NHL, as a Stanley Cup threat for the next 5 to 8 years. And that would be great too, because you'd be seeing a decade where the Florida Panthers are one of those better teams in the NHL, which is so pivotal. And I know that, again, usually I'm like, oh, let's hold off a little bit, don't get too crazy here. But when you're winning championships, and also the fact that you have possible looming expansion in the NHL, I say go for it, because if we do go to 36 or 40 teams in the future, it is going to be that much harder to go out there and win a championship. People that have watched this channel for a while know that I am very anti-expansion, because at a certain point you just have to say enough is enough. But the reality is we very well could be seeing 36 teams in the coming years. And for Florida, might as well go out there and try to win it when there's 32 teams and just kind of continue this golden era. Because while it is frustrating to probably admit for a lot of fans, this is probably going to be the best period in Panthers history, just because it's so hard to win consistently in the NHL. And even before we had seen with this team, they never got to these kind of heights. Again, this is kind of highlighted by the fact that Paul Maurice is already third all-time for head coaching wins for this organization, and by December probably should be number one all-time in terms of regular season wins. This group is going to be, up there with a lot of the top 10 and top 5 stats for the organization, and is going to be a group that may not end up going on to be a modern day dynasty, but certainly will leave an impact for the NHL, where you're going to go through all the years and say, oh, this team was in the mix of it for a good long while. So yes, it's just a very exciting time for this team and for this organization. And I think that at the end of all this, when you have these key players that have the youth and the success that are there, I am all for this, and I'm very excited to see how things play out for Florida at the moment, as they are at the top of the Atlantic Division. So maybe they go out there and win their division yet again, set themselves up well to maybe even make it to the Stanley Cup Final for 3 straight seasons, as it would be the 6th straight season that the state of Florida would see a team in the Stanley Cup Final. Tampa Bay and Florida suddenly running the East. Kind of interesting to see there from a couple of years ago, although the Bolts have been good. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all these moves for the Florida Panthers? And do you think they're going to be able to get the deals done for like Sam Bennett and whatnot? And do you think that they're going to go out there and win another championship? If not, maybe even go out there and win 3 or more and establish themselves as a dynasty in the NHL. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.